Hello everyone, welcome to OCHD and welcome to another Jumputi Heroes discussion video. Today we'll be talking about the upcoming 3.5 anniversary celebration. Unlike last time, we'll be looking at the event as a whole and trying to piece together the little nuggets of information we have so far. I have revised this video numerous times to try and get it just right, but as more information comes out, it feels more and more like my predictions are getting further and further from what will actually happen. Eventually, you just kind of have to take the L and move on. With that said, please leave a comment below telling me which characters you would most like to see added during this event. Let's get into it. As we discussed in the previous video, the core of this event will be the Musou character. However, as more information has been released, it's beginning to look like I was way off with the Musou video. The event description states that a character who disappeared in 2019 will return. More specifically, it says a character that was a murderer who disappeared in 2019. The general consensus seems to be that Kira from Diamond is Unbreakable is the character in question that they are alluding to here. While Kira has been available once or twice as a character in various events and reprints and such, he has some special stages that have never returned. So this is what leads most people to believe that this is the character they are talking about. Even though most people agree that Kira is the most likely option, there are some other possibilities. For example, Hades from Saint Seiya, though his stage has returned, or that raises another question, possibly Bakura from Yu-Gi-Oh! Because his unit, yes, has been available in the gacha, but in terms of his stage, that has not returned since 2019. I think all you gotta do is look through the units added in 2019 and make that decision for yourself. For this video, I've got to go with the popular pick, and with that being Kira, the speculation towards who the Musou character will be leads us back to one character. Part 4 Jotaro is now looking like the most popular pick for the Musou character during this event. The way I would probably execute this would be to have Jotaro counter a new stage with Yoshikage Kira as the boss, but then drop Echo's Act 3 Koichi as an event character. Then, in the back end of this event, I would have a bonus unity battle with Kosaku Kira, but only with him appearing as the boss. I would save the character for possibly a later Dark Heroes or JoJo event. The next hurdle we need to tackle is the theme. In the last video I talked about how I thought the theme would be love, but I've sort of changed my mind on that. It could still be the case, but I think some characters will have ties to love. But in general, I think love is more tied to the theme of the rewards, as the devs will be showing their love and appreciation for the players. And maybe some of the characters will fit that theme, others less so. Instead, based off the information we have so far, I have chosen a theme that can loosely tie together all of the characters we know about so far, and allow me to speculate about new characters that I would like to introduce in this event. As of recording this, we've had our first silhouette appear in the new stage, and the identity of that character will be revealed tomorrow. So we best get started with these predictions as soon as possible. To start, let's quickly review the 4 characters we already have teasers for. The first character, who is teased today, is believed to be Koka from Gintama. This is all but confirmed at this point, so there won't be much more to say about her until we talk about which character she may come with. The second character is very clearly Sawada Tsunayoshi from Katekyo Hitman Reborn. The silhouette appears to indicate that this Suna is from some point in the story prior to him meeting Spanner. I say this because we should be able to pinpoint places where parts of his costume should be easily identifiable pretty much any time from that point onward, and I can't see any of those features in the current silhouette. As you can see on screen, the silhouette is much closer to the version 2 Suna than the version 3 Suna, and I do expect this to be early future arc Suna. There's a lot of nice stuff in this arc with Haru and Kyoko, so if we were still going down the path of a love themed event, it would be very nice to see them. but to be honest, I can't really see how either of them would work here, so I don't think I'm going to be able to include them here today. The third character is Corazon from One Piece. Probably should have done this one first because we already have the sprite, but oh well. Moving on to the final silhouette. This tease is the most debatable. I do, however, remain confident in my call that this is Masaki Kurosaki from Bleach. Now, what roles will these characters play? I believe they will all be free-to-play units. There definitely could be a way to make them work as gacha, and you know, there is a chance that they could mix and match gacha and events from these silhouettes. But for the sake of this video, I'm assuming they will all be the same, and I have decided that they will all be event characters. In particular, I do believe we need a free-to-play Suna. Most other series with multiple feature festivals have a free version of the protagonist at this point, so logically, Suna should get one too. Now, let's begin to put this event together. I have based this event's structure off the 3rd anniversary rather than the 2.5 anniversary, as most would agree, Musou events are a big deal. So this event, everything around the Musou, needs to be a big deal. And the 2.5 anniversary felt like at least half of the event was just kind of missing. All I've really omitted from the structure of the 3rd anniversary event was the mini festival we got at the end of the event, as I think this time around we will just move on to the next feature festival. As discussed before, one of the first things I think you'll be seeing in this event will be Jotaro as a Musou and Kira as a Kata stage that drops Koichi. One of the other first things you'll be seeing in this event, I believe, will be Corazon. Even though I feel like this prediction gets more and more unlikely by the day, I'm still hoping that this Corazon will be the mascot / host for this event. It's possible we still get the version 3 lore from the Taiwan server, maybe as a standard gacha or something, but I really hope not. When we do finally get a version 3 lore on the Japan server, I'm hoping it's a slightly more limited worthy version of the character, perhaps from the raid on Onigashima, although that is much later in the manga. Oh, and this would be a good point to mention the theme I have chosen to loosely tie all these characters together, and I would like to emphasize the word loosely in that sentence. The theme I want for this event is generations. In the case of Jotaro, he is the JoJo of the previous generation coming to aid Josuke and the gang against Kira. In the case of Corazon, he was the younger brother of Don Quixote do Flamingo, and he occupied the heart seat of the Don Quixote family, but he was actually working for the Marines to try and stop the monster his brother had become, and when he was found out and executed by do Flamingo, he passed his will onto Trafalgar Law, who would wear that heart as the name of his pirate crew. Next up, let's talk about the character who will counter Koka. In this case, even though I don't know Gintama that well, I can see the general consensus is that it will be Umibozu. After looking up the backstory and clips from the anime, I can certainly agree with that. As Kagura and Kamui's parents, they are the previous generation of that family, and I believe the event in particular will be the story of how they met and slowly fell in love. I think Umibozu has the potential to be a limited here. I've even heard some people say Musou, but I also think that I can see similarities between the addition of Umibozu and Koka and our next entry that makes me think they might be sharing a standard gacha. Much like with Koka, I think that Masaki will be countered by her husband Ishin, and we will see the story of how they fell in love. And obviously they fit the theme in the same way as the previous generation of the Kurosaki family. So Ishin and Umibozu as a 2-character standard gacha with Koka and Masaki most likely as transcendent class events. I feel like the Gintama fans are not going to be very happy about that one, but I'm going to swiftly move on. Now, to briefly derail for a moment, I have said in the past that I feel we only need one new transcendent class event each time we have a new celebration, because the veteran players can beat them far too easily and far too quickly, and the beginner players still have a huge backlog of events that they can go and clear, and they don't need to necessarily do all of the new stuff. But in order to be realistic with these predictions, I have to take into account the fact The devs love to put a ton of Transcendent events into celebrations when they know lots of new players will be joining. So I'd expect that this celebration will be no exception, hence why we already have 2 Transcendent class events, and there will be more. From the teasers, finally, we have Suna. Now, the issue with Suna is, I really think the smartest place to put him would be a Transcendent class event, just like the Tanjiro and Deku that we got in 100 Fest. However, if I'm going to try and be consistent with the theme, Giotto would be the best pick as the first generation head of the Vongola family. So I think this version of Suna we're getting would be when he initially receives the Vongola Ring version X gloves, after his near-death experience that led to him meeting with Giotto. So it would be a catastrophe class stage with future Hibari as the boss. We can get him in a later event as he will instead be dropping Suna, and then Giotto would be the limited. I promise this isn't just my bias showing, the event just kind of ended up this way. And as the last additional thing I'll be adding to part 1 of this event, a boost gacha and points event. I wanted whichever characters I chose here to fit the theme in the same way that Ishin and Umibozu did with Koka and Masaki. In the end, I chose another husband and wife pairing, Gid Lucione Devaluk from To Love Ru as our boost gacha unit to counter a points event version of Sephi Michaela Devaluk, again from To Love Ru. These are the parents of Lala, Momo, and Nana, and they are, of course, the previous generation of the Devaluk family. There may be better options available for this part of the event, but we haven't had any To Love Ru in a long time, so I thought it could work. You could also argue that Gid is To Love Ru's best shot at a limited character, so they may not use him here, but that hasn't really stopped them in the past, so I'm sticking with it. Anyway, this concludes part 1, let's move on to part 2. So with part 2 of the event, basically everything from part 1 will still be running. I would assume that part 2 would include the aforementioned Kosaku Kira Unity Battle, and probably some kind of stage that would allow us to farm copies of Corazon up to max luck. Among the other stuff, I think we should also get a legendary quest that gives us a legend summon that fits the theme. It could be some kind of collaboration legend summon like the 4 Heroes or the Dreams one that we've got in previous celebrations. Maybe it could do the Generations of Shonen Jump. Alternatively, if you wanted to add one from one specific series, there are so many options, but if I had to choose one on the spot, I'd go with the Gold Saints from Saint Seiya when they assemble to pierce the Wailing Wall. This legend summon would be good to have on hand for when this event comes to the Taiwan server. I have a feeling that event will be much the same as this one, but as they cannot have JoJo characters, they would instead have Hades as the returning villain, possibly dropping a new version of Shun as the event character, and then probably Aiolos as a Musou, though he doesn't really fight Hades in that arc, so possibly Divine Cloth Seiya instead. Regardless, back to the Japan server to finish off part 2. I'd expect a 2-character standard gacha in part 2 as well, but this time with a slightly different approach to the theme. I believe this would be our introduction to Sarada Uchiha, not from Boruto, but rather from Naruto, the 7th Hokage, and the Scarlet Spring. I believe in this stage we will face off against adult Sasuke, but he will be a teaser for an event next year, and will instead drop copies of adult Sakura. And in another case of a child rebelling against their father, I think I'd quite like to see a new version of Dai from Dragon Quest in the standard gacha. In the stage he would face off against Baron. Both of the events we just mentioned would be Transcendent class events, of course. And then the final thing we need to cover is the Part 2 Limited. The character I really wanted to put here was Lumiere from Black Clover, but a lot of the Black Clover content we've gotten since the last feature festival has been new limiteds, and this dev really likes Black Clover, so considering that Lumiere is probably Black Clover's best pick for a potential Musou in the future, I figured it was probably just best to shelve him for now. Where I settled in the end was Ichiryu from Toriko. We've speculated when Ichiryu would come a few times now, but hey, who knows, maybe this time we'll be right. He would obviously counter a Medora Catastrophe event, But I would hope that we would get Toriko as a drop so we can have another free-to-play protagonist in this event. It would be the version of Toriko you see on screen now, who is entering the gourmet world to save Komatsu as a direct result of the battle between Ichiryu and Midora. So there you have it. That's our event, and that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't already left a comment telling me what you want to see from this event, feel free to leave a comment telling me what you think the good, the bad, and the ugly was from my predictions. We have one final video discussing this celebration coming out soon, so I hope you all look forward to it, and I'll see you all next time.